the sky, gazing far into the night. I raise my hand to the fire, but it's no use, 'cause you can't stop it from shining through. It's true, baby, let the light shine through. If you believe it's true, baby, won't you let the light shine through for you, 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 won't you let the light shine through? Eyes in the sky, gazing far into the night. I raise my hand to the fire, but it's no use, 'cause you can't stop it from shining through. It's true, baby, let the light shine through. If you believe it's true, baby, won't you let the light shine through for you, 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 for
All right. Hello, hello. No microphone. Hopefully it sounds good. No issues. I can take a listen myself as well. I can take a listen myself as well. Sounds about the same. Sounds about the same. Yeah. Let me see. Okay. Okay, I turned up just a little bit. Might be a little more quiet. Might be a little bit more quiet. At least on my end, I can turn up pretty high on Twitch, so at least there's no sound issues on my end. But hopefully it's good. Yeah, I can turn mine up pretty. It's getting pretty loud if I turn mine up. Hopefully we're Gucci. We're Gucci. Bro, just show me the queue. Just show me the queue. Why, Smite? Why? Why must you keep the queue a secret for me? Also, I need sound. Okay. Well, I definitely didn't need to worry. All right, I'll go into practice mode and just warm up a bit while waiting anyway. It's what, 4 minutes? Seems good.
Who do I need to kill?
Oh, sound is definitely different in my headset. That's for sure. It's definitely slightly different. I might have to adjust how it sounds too.
In our haste to save the world, make sure we don't destroy it. You are mine.
Yeah, why does the sound... It's almost kind of muffled for me, actually. That's something I should have looked at before the stream. I never thought about how things sounded for me. I mean, is that that much different? But there is a slight difference. I'll probably just have to get used to it. Let me take a look real quick. Just give me a second, guys. I'm looking at presets for my headset here. There's actually one called MOBA, which is interesting. Like a multiplayer online battle arena thing, which is just what MOBA says. But if they're thinking of MOBAs like League, this probably not gonna sound the same. Let me see how this sounds real quick. It is slightly better already, I can tell, but at the same time, not. No, something's definitely off. Damn. I'll probably have to look at it after. Don't think I'll have time for it now, but That's fine. I mean, it's not like the sound is bad, it's just different. I need to adjust it a bit. Yeah, I mean, this isn't horrible, to be honest. At least I can tell where the direction or where stuff is coming from now. Yeah, at least, yeah, the direction works at least. Okay. This will do for now. Thank God for the presets. Just as a quick alternative. Okay. Oh. Let's get into it. Even though the sound issues are mostly on my end, I hopefully it won't affect the stream much. I never swapped to solo. What is this? I don't want to support. Excuse me? When the hell did I swap? Alright, whatever. I'm pretty sure I was supposed to be solo in this one. But, okay. Oh. Well, that solves that. I guess I'll take a look at my audio again real quick. If I'm not in the game anyway. Because it would be nice if I could somehow fix it. My sound at the moment, this is a new headset for the people that may not know. Slightly muffled. I wanted to see if I can figure out why, or at least fix it. Bring up G-Hub. It's pretty much identical to the headset I had before. It's just that it is now wireless. And hopefully I was also hoping it was going to have, at least, or if not a better microphone / hearing than my last. But so far that is not the case. Unfortunately. So I'm going to browse some presets here. Damn. All the most popular ones are just heavy bass. I don't need bass, alright? Not really that needed for just gaming for the most part. I don't listen to music that much, at least in front of my PC. When I'm outside, I do. But I don't really use this headset for that. Okay. I'm willing to test, so let's see. I got some presets here. All right. Let's check this preset. Hmm. All right. I do like this preset. It sounds a bit more clear. I'll keep it for now. This one also is specifically made for gaming, and it was the most popular one in the presets there. So I'll take it. In terms of microphones, I will simply just have to, like, I fiddled around with my microphone for a bit with my friend for a pretty solid hour and a half or so, and at least for him, he couldn't make it sound good enough, at least as my old microphone. So hopefully, it's still tolerable. For now, at least, it's what it is just gonna have to be like this. I'm not really sure if we can get it any better anyway. I might take a look at it myself at some point later or tomorrow.
Select your god.
Colon. Colon. Oh, boring. I'll warm up with Herc, I suppose.
Hercules is here.
That's weird. This is actually a support Anubis and a jungle Cypress. Hmm. Okay. But what is what is even happening? I'm guessing it's a Poseidon ADC, right? It has to be Cocola and Solo, right? It could also be Sir. They have 3 warriors, man. At least I picked a flexible pick. So, oh, never mind. I see what I'm pressing. I see. I'm turning off my microphone. I see. Okay, so I gotta be more careful about that, because apparently where I usually put my excuse me, where I usually put my fingers on my headset, apparently there's a button that mutes me. So I gotta be careful about that. But also, it is wireless, so when I actually move, I don't actually have to take off my headset anymore. So that's nice. It's the small things. Hey, Gabu. Thank you so much, man. I hope you had a great stream, my friend. And welcome, Raiders. Hope everyone is having a nice day. I just began with my first game, so we'll see how that goes. But thank you so much. Hope it goes good. It does. I hope you guys are having a nice day. Thank you so much, Gabu. Thank you. Big hearts. Big hearts and lots of love. It is Cocolan because we're both slow as hell. Some small amount of poke. Hey, Nea, what's up, man? How are you doing today? Just gonna get a safe level 3 here.
slain.
Be careful left. Be careful left. Be careful left. I will rip out your belly. Don't give up on the
I just realized that is Hero X. We're gonna struggle. It's gonna be tough. I lost the cooldown buff as well. That was really annoying.
You think you gonna just pass out? Two meatballs is better than one.
You have evolved. I will vanquish you!
Mwah! Compliments to the chef.
Vanquish you! Where are you off to?
Any chance we get a rand game today?
Slain.
Maybe. I haven't tried him in the new patch. But yeah, could probably do a rat game.
Your right tower is under attack.
Mamma mia, not again!
I don't know why we have a Cerberus jungle and a Anubis support. But you know. It is what it is, you know? I ulted too late. I absolutely should have had that. Lobby crashers? Oh, fantastic. Of course they are. Of course they are.
It's important to look good in battle.
Well, that sucks. I don't really know what to do with that information, to be honest. Now I kind of don't feel like playing the game.
Ally has been slain.
Because they're both not doing too hot.
Maybe a little.
I mean, I guess the Anubis is doing fine, but I imagine Echrome has a pretty big influence on that. No, I don't believe it.
Your middle tower is under attack.
Damn, well, I'm missing everything.
Mwah! Compliments to the chef. Wow! He must have choked on the meatballs.
Vanquish you!
Let me restart. The mic seems off. I have a new microphone. So yeah. And if it sounds slightly worse than the last one, it's probably because it is. Me and my friend tried to fix it. But it's just how it sounds, I guess. Unfortunately. It might just be worse, even though this is pretty much the exact same headset that I had, except it is wireless. Like, it is a newer version too. The one I had is a few years old at this point. But I don't know why it sounds worse. Like, me and my friend looked at it for like an hour and a half trying to make it sound better. It just doesn't. Sounds muffled to me. It's way more crispy. Okay, that's two very different. It's two very different feedbacks, guys. I don't know which one is correct. Maybe it's safer to say it just sounds different. Like, this one at the moment, at least from what I heard, it sounds way more like it focuses on my voice and not anything else. But I do agree that it also sounds slightly muffled. Crispy as in you hear static? Okay, weird. Let me take a listen to it after this game. Because the faster I can fix it, the better. Like, absolute worst case scenario, I just plug in my old headset. It still works just fine, just this one is way more convenient for me, being wireless.
Always be prepared. You think you can adjust the pasta? Your left tower is under attack.
I am just stuck in between minions. God damn it.
Mamma mia, not again. Do your best. Your middle tower is under attack.
Alright, see you in a bit, Blue Knight.
Fight with you.
I don't believe it. Yeah, he actually jumped at the right time.
Okay, so maybe a little soft here at someone.
I don't believe it. He got the... Actually, no, I still got the little thing. Because he jumped, I guess. Weird. Never mind.
That was a party and joke. Your middle tower. Now that's spicy meatball.
They're so deep in mid.
Your middle tower has been destroyed. An ally has been slain.
It's definitely a weird game to start off with. With a lot of Crashers playing Anubis and Cerberus in very different roles than they are usually being played at.
Your middle tower is under attack. Your right tower has been destroyed. just passed away like that? Okay, yo, don't come back again. Enemy missing left. Mwah! Compliments to the chef. Mamma mia, not again.
Damn it. I'm missing everything.
Your middle tower is under attack.
Not that it has any kill potential, but I just want to poke.
That was a salty anchovy. Where are you off to? Your middle tower is under attack. On my way. Set up an ambush here. On my way. An enemy has been slain. Your left tower. No one eats for free. Hit him with that secret sauce. Your right tower is under attack.
Why are you hiding in here, dude? Why are you not just going to the lane? I'll push them away for you.
Wow! Compliments to the chef. I do you best.
It's not really a good chase.
You think you can just pass out? Your right tower has been destroyed. Your right Phoenix is under attack.
I'll just back. I have 3k gold. What am I looking at here? What could I get? What do I want?
Team has destroyed the pyromancer.
I'll do a Prid one.
Your left tower is under attack. To look good in battle.
I need the cooldown. I might try. No, I don't think the Phoenix Shield, Shield of the Phoenix, is going to be that good on Hercules.
Do your best. Middle enemy tower. An ally has been slain. The fresh meat has been tenderized. That was a salty anchovy. Is the moment of reckoning. Double kill. Mamma mia, not again! Duel me!
I really want to let him just steal that for free. I'll gladly blink it.
Enemy missing left. Your team has destroyed a left on my way. Tower. You think you gonna just pass away like that?
Oh, words so tragic. Absolutely tragic.
Has destroyed the Gold Fury.
Why do we hate backing? I mean, in this game, there's not really much else. Like, there's nothing to do really.
An ally has been slain. Okay, so maybe a little. You think you gonna just
What are we looking at here?
middle towers?
Definitely some kind of anti-bullshit here.
Wow, he must have spoken on the meat radio. Enemy spotted.
That's something, I guess. Just baited them off fire.
Better than one.
I should have bought wards though. The lack of vision just means we don't know where anyone really is. Even if we wanted to really defend it, we can't.
Swiftly now.
An enemy has been slain.
It's a good pickup for them. I actually don't know what to go for with my last item. What is Secret building? Let's see. The equal dominance build, it seems. So far. Going pretty heavy on
My way. Gank.
pen.
Chase the enemy. You have been slain. Bra. Enemy spotted. Gank. Do your best. An enemy has been slain. Double kill. Return to the abyss. Join me. Attack under attack. Set up an ambush here. This jungle needs to be watched.
It seems like our two... I don't know. Am I the only frontline we have? Kind of, yeah. Damn. I feel like we probably should have had that Phoenix at least. Not to mention the damage to kill Poseidon when he went in. I don't know why Cerberus was just standing back, but... Oh well. What do I need? I kind of just winged my build in this one. Because they have so much damage in their team comp. And a lot of tankiness. I think I actually need a Spirit Rope, to be honest.
Your structure is under attack.
Yeah, I got Archer and Killer Carry, that's true. I probably could go Archdruid instead. It's a good call. I should have read your message before I looked at anything.
Do your best. Embrace an enemy has been slain. Attack! My way is under attack. Your left tower. Enemy spotted. Illuminated brilliantly.
My blink is up and not that long.
You're not again. That was a sortie and your best. No one eats for free. Always be prepared. Bask in celestial restoration. You think you gonna just pass away like that?
Damn, I am not sure what happened over there, but Ra wasn't a part of it.
Set up an ambush here. Wow! He must have choken on the meatball. Attack, fire giant! Be right back, be right back. Retreat! Yes, on my way. Okay, soft. Maybe a little soft in her side. Fresh meat has been tenderized.
Oh,
Just give me
I shouldn't have tried to help Anubis. I should have just gotten out.
ally has been slain.
Oh, that's probably game. Unless they crashed the lobby.
An enemy has been slain. Double kill. Wow! Compliments to the chef.
I guess they can't end, probably.
Wow! Compliments to the chef. Mamma mia, not again! It is time for the main course. Your middle tower is under
Yeah, they can end, but probably losing a Phoenix on this. Unless Anubis can somehow miraculously defend this. Nope. No, he can't.
Wow! Compliments to the chef. Deicide. Chase the enemy. Embraced by divine might need replacing. Duel me! You think you can just pass away like that? Do your best!
I'll back and get wards again.
I am already wearing the weight of an elephant. Defend! The enemy team has destroyed the fire. You might need replacing. This jungle needs to be watched. Enemy spotted. Aim cool. Join me.
Swiftly now!
Okay, some, maybe a little something. Set up a spaghetti. Defend middle lane. Enemy ultimate down. An enemy has been slain. Defend! Your Titan is under attack.
It's too fucking fast. Excuse me, it's too fucking fast.
Thanks. Enemy spotted. Gank.
Right, true!
Vanquish you. Join me. Orders up. Celebration duty. Moi, compliment. Fresh meat has been tenderized. Moi, compliment. Ally has been slain. Do your best. Enemy spotted. Enemy spotted. Okay. Duel me. Back to celestial restoration. Darkness fades. Mamma mia, not again! Double kill. Moi, compliments.
Celestial restoration.
Riattaccia your spaghetti. Duel me.
Jesus Christ.
Vanquish you. Where are you off to? Do your best.
Do not falter!
Okay.
I do not
What a stressful, weird game. You like the name, Gabu? You got a fan. At least Gabu won't commentate on my new microphone,
Always be prepared.
because apparently it's bad.
Be careful. Be careful. Attack! Fire enemies have returned to base. An enemy has been slain. An ally has been slain. Mamma mia, not again!
Is all this back up? Bro, how are we losing in the back? I don't understand.
Full fight.
Who killed everyone in the back?
A little softy in her side.
Because I just got screwed up by everyone. Oh, here comes the lobby crashing. Damn it.
Your
And there it is.
is under attack.
Yeah. Here it comes.
Your middle phoenix is under attack.
Alright. I was about to press F6, but never mind. We're skipping a queue. So we can avoid that. Alright. Let me take a look at the microphone. Let me listen to myself real quick. It does sound really, really muffled. Why is it so muffled? Yeah, this is my first hacker game as well, Gabu. I believe. Maybe there was one, but at least lobby crashing. This is the first lobby crashing game I've had so far. You have hackers 90% of the games. Damn. And the queue just reset too, man. There's gonna be a long wait time for those, but I'll wait. I could just use my old microphone, but I mean, I bought this headset to use it. It would be nice if I could make it work. I'm sorry. Give me a second, guys. I will try and see if I can make it a bit better on stream. Because this way I can use you guys as feedback. So please, give me your feedback on the microphone. Let me test different stuff here. Cool mic. It's pretty much the exact same one as I had before. Like this headset is wireless instead, which was a nice upgrade because I was really getting fucking tired of the old one I had. It was just old. It was just old. This is a newer model, so you would expect the microphone to be a bit better, or at least as good. Certainly, that is not the case so far. I'm just gonna try some different filters here. Let me know if one is really good. How is this? Do we sound good? Do we sound sexy? Do we like how this sounds? Is it as muffled? I guess I can test it myself too. Is it as muffled? I guess it is still very muffled. Why is it so muffled? Maybe it's on my OBS. Yeah, the thing is, I looked at the settings with a friend for like an hour and a half. That's the problem. And it sounds different every single other place that I try. It sounds way worse for my friend than it does in stream. And when I test it myself, it sounds different from both of those things as well. Shit's never easy. I don't know if. Yeah, Discord has VOD settings too. And we did look at that as well. But right at the moment, if it's muffled for you guys, I would like to fix that as a main priority, as streaming is, it's a somewhat big part of people listening to what I'm saying. Let's see what else I have here. How does this sound? I think it's okay, nothing wrong with it. Yeah, it's just very different. I would like it to sound somewhat the same. Hmm. It sounds like I made a pentacle 11 years ago. I mean, that's not entirely wrong. That's true. Let's see. I have a preset called Eagle Magnet Copy, but as far as I know, the one doesn't sound very good. This is the one I simply had before, I think. So maybe I just stick to this one. If not this one, then I'm not really sure. Because me and my friend fiddle a lot. I'm sure you could probably make it better than this, but I'll just. I'm sure it's weird for the people that have been watching me every day for a while. It all sounds fine. Yeah, I would like to make it sound good, you know. And it's still kind of fun to fiddle around with it here and there. I mean, it's still pretty clear, like, but it is just slightly muffled. Slightly muffled. I would like if it wasn't that muffled, but I do think it sounds fine as well. Like, I don't think it would bother me, and I'm pretty sure people will get used to it over time anyway, because I don't actually think it sounds bad. There's nothing wrong with it. I just wonder if it wasn't because Smite would just kill itself. If I swap microphone, I would just swap my microphone, and you guys could see the difference. Because it is pretty clear. The other microphone just seems to be a lot more clear for some reason. Also, I didn't really take note of it yesterday, but I did hit Masters, so at least that's already done. Don't need to think about that. Still just waiting for the next queue here, but Smite aren't a big fan of showing me when the queue is changing, so. Oh, it did change. Perfect. We queuing. Yeah, no, I think the casters definitely made the clip as good as it is. They went ham. That's the most memorable part. Is the people's reaction to the thing, even though the thing might be cool. I do think their reaction sometimes is much bigger for just being able to enjoy a clip like that through time. The reactions are definitely the long-standing part of it, at least to me. This is a pretty cool Mulan skin, I think. Looks pretty sweet. I like it. And there's also the Wukong one that looks really cool. I think this Cupid skin is good too, but I think this is I said it yesterday too. This is just a preview of how proportionally Cupid is gonna be in Smite 2. He even has new animations in this skin. This is just Cupid in Smite 2. Well, not exactly this one. It is a skin for him, but I think this is gonna be the proportions. Where's the Wukong skin at? Oh, weird. Wasn't there a new Wukong skin? Why am I stupid? Did they remove it? What? Where did it go? Am I insane? Maybe it was glitched and they had to remove it for now. What happened? Yeah, this. Oh, I guess it's not a new one. Yeah, I see. It's not a new one. It's pretty cool though. I like it. And hello, Jack. I hope you are having a nice day. Yeah, I agree. That makes one of them first one ever in tournament, so it's most memorable. Plus the skin you had always the first thing I think of when you think of Smite overall. You think of the Lil Mana. I do hope they carry the skin over. The good old skin to Smite 2 as well. I do hope they just keep some part of the old Vamana in Smite 2. Like, if it's this one, I don't even care. If it's this weird one with a beard, I don't care either. Just give me this old. I want the old animations, man. I want the old Vamana. I don't like the new one. I don't. Something's just off with the animations for me with the new one. And I don't like his smug face, alright? And look at how he looks. I can't stand it. I would still enjoy playing him, but I miss the old one. Chill, you okay? Not too many lobby crashers done? Yeah, this was the first one I've met so far. First one I've met. I've had pretty good games. I mean, overall, what is it? I don't actually know what the score is. It's about 50-50, I guess, in terms of win-loss. Actually, no, it's a bit better. But yeah, it's been good games, I think, for the most part. I think so. I've had some fun. I think we were in a game yesterday together, weren't we? We had an interesting game. Which one was it? Was it the last one? I don't know. Was this you? I forgot. You're hidden too. But I believe we were in a game at some point. We just had a really weird game. Yeah, they even changed the god picture in one of the few. You noticed they switched. Yeah. Sometimes I don't know why either. Yeah, I think you were on the enemy team here as well, I believe. So what's happening? My glasses keep getting greased up and I'm not doing anything. Such pain. How and why? That changed nothing. It's still there somewhere. Okay, this looks a bit better. Hopefully there's no lobby crashing on the other side.
Pick your god.
I'll ban Chang'e. Every time Chang'e goes through, my mid gets destroyed.
Your god.
Or someone around mid gets destroyed. I don't want to deal with it anymore. They banned Arthur, who was I was actually going to pick him in this one. I need to practice him. Alright. Let me see if I can remove this piece of shit in my fucking glasses. Where is he? Yeah, Arthur is really good. Arthur is very strong. We'll be alright. Just need to believe in the power of friendship. It's okay, they also have a very strange comp. I imagine I'm against Set, which is interesting. Haven't dealt with him in a while. Of course, it's Jack. It's always Jack. That's fine. Yeah. Yeah, that was a really, really shitty game to have crashed. It was a fun game too. It was so even for a lot of it. You guys definitely deserve to just have that game ended. Just play with a Shiva that went 27 and 1. It's a lot of kills. It's a lot of kills. Yeah, it was both the Anubis and the Cerberus. When the crashing started, I was about to press F6 before the lobby crashed. Not that I think it would have gone through, but yeah, it is what it is. Just sucks. It just sucks. And Susano said, "Can I even do anything if I get ganked?"
No! Sorry!
That's too bad.
Yeah, we might have a situation here where we get screwed by MMR. It seems like we have a guy who is normally in Plat 5.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
There is set as hacking, guys, so we probably would lose this anyway. Like, look, remember the name?
Cancel that.
Get mages get buffed or something? They just fit the meta very well. It's not so much mages that got buffed, it is the items in the current meta that give you a lot of protection and also power. So it is not just mages, it is just the fact that there is a very good item in the name of Shifter's Shield at the moment.
No. I'll attack.
Shifter's Shield right here. Gives you a decent amount of power as long as you still stay healthy, and it gives you a shit ton of protections. Not to mention health.
Save
Oh,
this.
looks like it's Susano solo. Interesting. I'll take that any day over set, like very much so.
Enemy missing middle.
Very, very much so.
Okay. Can't stand the heat. Get out of my kitchen.
No.
Your middle tower is under attack.
That's kind of unfortunate. I should have had it.
Enemies in middle
Mamma
lane.
mia, not again. Good game.
Man, the creep died.
Middle tower is under attack.
Enemy spotted.
Enemy missing left.
Enemy missing middle. Enemies in right lane.
You just got served. Some of the pasta, huh? Your
Of course they would.
is under attack.
Of course they would. Well, this is gonna make my life very difficult. Being in Susano, alright. Tough early. Falling behind Susano, not good. Not good. Abort mission. Abort. Big time.
No issues here. On my way. Solo.
At least they didn't evade my blue. We're good. I got my blue.
Your middle tower is under attack.
Enemy missing middle. Enemy missing left.
Careful, middle. You think you gonna just pass away like that? Your middle tower is under attack.
Just ulted the wave.
Enemies incoming right.
I would go all in on that if it wasn't because someone is probably coming right.
Your middle tower is under attack.
Enemies have returned to base. Middle. Follow me.
Thanks. Your middle tower is under attack.
Enemies in middle lane.
I feel like I'm hearing set around.
Enemy spotted.
Savor this. Savor this. That's too bad. Be careful left. On my way.
What? Why are you not following me, idiot mobs? Hmm?
Enemy missing middle.
Tower. An ally has been slain. The fresh meat has been tenderized. Mwah! Compliments to the chef. Enemy spotted. Bye. The enemy team has destroyed the Gold Fury. An enemy has been slain. Defend left lane. That's too bad. Your left tower is under attack.
Enemy missing middle. Enemies have returned to base.
This will make some noise.
Yeah, you run and support too. In case of shifters, you can pretty much build it on anything you want. Shifters is just an incredibly versatile item at the moment. It is not bad on anyone. Like some gods might prefer something else, which is completely fine. But you can't build it on everything. Support should probably build it first. Yeah.
Be careful.
Enemy
Down.
Enemy missing
Savor
middle.
this. Bye. Okay. Mwah! Compliment. You have been slain an enemy. Retreat! Retreat! Yes. That's too bad. Mama will not be happy.
He still beats up, that sucks. Otherwise I probably would have had him. Or I would have had him. I fear him away while simultaneously taunting him if he runs away. I should have been just fine, that sucks. That sucks.
Your middle tower is
But at least I should be just fine in my matchup against Susano. It's not a bad matchup for me.
take this jungle.
Okay.
Take this jungle. Thanks. We love you.
missing middle.
Sure, enemies with problems.
Thanks.
Get out of here.
How did that? Oh, it's because he didn't charge it up. I was like, why didn't that knock me up? But
Maybe a little salt did hurt. Wow, he must have choked on the meatball. Enemy missing right. Go away. Your middle tower is under attack. That was a sorry joke. Get out of here. An enemy has been slain.
Fare thee well.
Parties.
Thanks.
Your middle tower is under attack. Your middle tower has been destroyed.
I'm just PvEing over here.
Enemy missing middle.
Thunder.
That's not good.
The enemy team has destroyed the Gold Fury. Be careful left.
Yes, we need wards.
Get out of here. Careful right. Bringing out the big guns. Did he attach your spaghetti?
Enemy missing middle.
At least we're winning somewhere, I guess. Not that it means much for now, as mid and jungle generally is the, you know, the biggest,
You have to protect this
most important one, but still. It's something.
Your structure is under attack. You, an ally, has been slain.
I thought we could fight, but
Mamma mia, not again.
damn, he's not even dead.
Wow, he must have choked on the meatball. You think you can just pass away like that? Bon appetito!
I'm sad that I just went mid and died. I thought we could just kill them.
Yes, thanks. Illuminates them like a rainbow in the dark. Your last tower is under attack. Go away.
It was a Wardiak. Yeah, all the all stars are here. This is where the cool people hang out, you know.
So sorry. Enemy missing middle. Enemies incoming right.
I kind of don't want to surrender though. That's just because I'm having fun. But I mean, if everyone really wants to surrender, like we have one person who doesn't want to surrender. I don't know who that is, but
Right lane.
I feel like I don't know. I'm just having fun. But I'll listen to the majority here.
There's problems.
This is Random Casuals. This was a rank game, but we had a person who was openly clear that he was even Platinum 5. And as you might know, the most, like pretty much everyone else in this game is not in Platinum 5. So there was a bit of an unevenness on one of the teams. Our Kokul can admit, just unfortunately. He wasn't supposed to be in this game. He just got fucked by MMR, pretty much, or their matchmaking. So it is what it is. I do think it's slightly, I wouldn't say a premature surrender. That's the wrong word. I feel like we could have played it out a bit more. We might be somewhat like a person down, but maybe we had some kind of playback potential with the people we had. Because it wasn't going bad. Like I was ahead of the Susano, and we could keep killing Susano. Not to mention I was kind of clapping the people I was attacking. I just had that one stupid death in mid. But probably the game was probably only going to get harder going into team fighting, so I understand both sides of wanting to and wanting not to surrender in this one.
Select your god.
What are we looking at? Arthur's banned again, for good reason. I'll do Paul. Are those PC glasses? There's normal ones. It is, you know, it's blue light glasses, so I guess what you would call PC glasses. It is for the blue light. Not to strain my eyes too much looking at my PC or my monitors all day. I don't need them, but if I sit in front of my PC pretty much all day, I will end up feeling it. You want to feel built by F6? We have 6 because we had our mid laner was in Platinum 5. So we didn't have a chance in that game. Our mid laner was openly saying that he was in Platinum 5, and we all agreed that matchmaking fucked us. So we decided to just not waste too much time on it. He already died 6 times. like ranks matter. It's true, but that's also why we set for him just to have fun. But it didn't go very well. You can still like be really good at lower ranks and just be unlucky, but he clearly was in a game where he was not used to being, unfortunately. So it happens. Like it's also why we didn't talk bad about him. It happens. It's not his fault at all. It's just matchmaking being bad. Yeah, so many times I hear people complaining about someone who is not playing good and they want to report him. It happens a lot, unfortunately. A lot of people can't put themselves a lot of people act like they never make mistakes and they never have bad games, and so they want to report people for playing bad. But in reality, everyone has bad games sometimes. Sometimes you're all just unlucky and you're in a game where you probably shouldn't be because you're just simply outskilled. So people just cannot handle or seeing other people make mistakes when they're doing well, or they feel like they ruined something for them because they didn't die as much or some stupid shit. It just is what it is. Everyone can relate to the thought of feeling let down or disappointed because you have a teammate who's not performing well, but trash talking them isn't going to fix that problem. It's just going to make a lot of the time, really, it's just going to make it worse. There's a chance they might do slightly better if you encourage them or like try to talk them up a bit. But yeah. You have Masters at the moment? Yeah, I had Masters yesterday. So at least I won't ever fall out of Masters, but I am just on the edge of, MMR being Masters. I believe 2500 is Masters. And then 3K is Grandmasters. But I never got to that point yet. I almost got there before the split reset. But yeah, I'm still working my way up. This is definitely gonna be a bit tough. Yeah. Just started playing against this as well. Yeah. I came back about 3 months ago or so. So I'm pretty recently back as well. Hey Lobster, what's up, man? Hope you're having a nice Friday. Hope you're being treated well on this day. Just got back from the gym. Eating ice cream life is good. The good old classic reward, the ice cream reward for working out. I can relate to that. Not always the best idea, but I get it. Gotta reward yourself for doing good, right? It makes sense. Don't let anyone tell you otherwise. Beautiful autos.
Okay.
Yo, creeps? Oh my god. Creeps just fucked me. I played that so bad. I didn't realize my dash was down when I was hitting him before, and I was trying to dash out and realized it was still down. So I just made my life so much harder than it ever needed to be. Why am I like this? Why? Why, God? Why did you make me stupid?
Stand strong. Silence.
No, there's no league at the moment, I believe. Don't quote me on it though. I don't know for sure. Like sometimes when Smite 2 Alpha is happening, they have like some smaller tournaments happening in Smite 2. But so far, I believe that's it. I don't know if there's anything coming up either. I have no clue. I'm not the right person to ask about it. Man, screw you, tower. I wasn't trying to get your help. If I had mana, that would have been nice. At least I would have been able to dash away. At least Odin died for it. Something. Let's see if the lazy bag is there. Well, I'm not dealing with Odin on top of it, so never mind. Of course he TP'd. And of course I died right as I got blue buff. Why wouldn't I? A classic. It's definitely just a chill game. Meeting Odin is probably one of the worst things I think I could meet as Apollo solo, to be honest. Because in the early game, he definitely has enough damage to kill me. And I don't have the sustain to out-heal his poke yet, so...
Enemy ultimate down.
Fucking Yanasold. Exactly as my blue spawned as well. That's actually just the worst fucking timing. This is not my game. Yeah, I don't like the sound on that specific ult for some reason. I can't hear it very well. I don't know why. I also am running with a new headset. I don't know if that is also playing into it a little bit. Which definitely could.
This seems a bit menial. Enemy ultimate down!
I mean, good part, because of all the random stuff that's been happening, he doesn't actually have that big of an XP lead, at least. It's not a two level lead at the moment. And now with RC, I do have some kind of fight potential. Eh. Give me this mana. I need it.
Be careful, left! Enemies in the jungle!
Yes.
Whew, that was kind of a risk, but I got it.
Enemy missing left. Enemy missing left. Be careful, an middle. Ally has been slain. Mwah! Compliments to the chef. You think
I did call it. I did call it, and I can't follow up on that.
an ally has been slain. Your middle tower is under attack.
Enemy ultimate down!
Your middle tower is under attack. Tower is under attack. That'll up this performance.
Spotted! Retreat!
God damn it. We got insects in here. Shit. Don't you dare fly in front of me, Scovey. You fuck. It's only a moth, but it's spazzing the fuck out. Okay, stay on that wall. You chill over there. I don't need you distracting me right now. It's not the game for that. It's right behind my monitor.
Your left tower. Keep an eye out, eh?
To the vanguard.
I don't think that's a good fight. Bro, these fucking pillars and shit.
Tell the king. They can't have my.
Cabrakan is obviously here too. Of course Cabrakan would be here too. Why wouldn't he be?
Goodbye.
Hmm.
Save yourself.
This could be a shifter's game. I could also just keep going damage. I'll do chins instead. Game's been good. I've only done one so far, I believe. No, I've done 2 games. One was a lobby crash, so no. The second one was an MMR game where my mid laner was in Plat 5, so also no. It's not been great today in terms of games. I've had fun. I'll say that. I've had fun. It's been alright. But the games have not been balanced, so to speak. And my love, I've lost my tower. So I gotta chill.
Enemy missing left. Enemies in the left jungle. That's the way. Mamma mia, no. I'll attack left lane.
Defend, please.
Your right tower is under attack.
On my way. Follow me.
Your middle tower
Follow me.
is under attack.
Gang, gang.
Wow.
Stay focused.
On my way. An enemy has been slain. Wow. He must have choked on the meatball.
Light my way.
I don't know about this.
Passed away like that. An enemy has been slain. That's too bad. That'll up this.
We don't really need to talk about that. We almost just got completely double clapped by Giannis there.
Enemy spotted.
Who is this Giannis again? Oh, it's that guy. Wait, is he? I don't remember. Is he a wall hacker? I don't remember.
Magnificent. Return to base.
I don't remember. I just remember him being high on MMR. That's about it.
Gank left lane.
I'm just going full ham on pen. I think the main thing for us in this team comp is that we can kill tanks very, very fast. We just gotta be really, really careful doing it. Cause yeah, we're gonna be pretty squishy. It's gonna be high risk, high reward team comp. But yeah, I don't think the Giannis is hacking, as I was saying before. But you know what? The worst thing that hacking in Smite has done to me is always suspecting hacking now. Before I was like, nah, you know, it's a skill-based game. Sometimes you're just really good. If someone's smacking you, it's probably just because they're better than you. Now I'm like, oh shit, this might actually be hacking now.
An enemy has been slain. Not again.
These shitty pillars and all these minions and shit.
Destroyed a middle enemy tower. This seems a bit menial.
Yeah, I should have given that to him. It's definitely better on him than it is on me. I'm just a Apollo. Yeah, it seems to be a rough day. I guess maybe it's because it's a weekend. All the hackers are home from work. And all the trolls are home and they're drunk. I don't know. I get you though. So far, it's definitely been weird.
Yes. Be careful left. Enemies incoming left. Save yourself.
Yes.
I'm just gonna run.
Ward here.
Ow.
On my way. Enemies behind us. Woo! Help.
Enemy spotted. Enemy spotted. An enemy has been slain.
Follow me.
Wow. He must have tried.
Attack Gold Fury. We haven't lost yet. Be careful right. Enemy ultimate incoming.
Oh, I still got all parts.
I saw the TP. Scary, scary TP. I'm actually just gonna get this as well.
Stand strong. Goodbye.
You're gonna just.
We're going for the heavy pen, boys.
Your right tower has been destroyed.
They have tanky tanks.
Your middle tower is under attack. Okay, so maybe a little soft did her sound. On my way. Buon appetito! Keep an eye out, eh? Triple kill!
Good job, fanboy breeder. Funny name.
Nice.
Hey Ozzy, what's up, man? Let's see if we can actually get fire out of this. Fanboys? Where? The Freya has a good name. Yeah, I feel like we could have done fire, but we don't have to at the moment. We can just bait stuff out. I would like my ult back up.
Ultimate is down! Mamma mia, not again! Wow, he must have choked her on the meatball.
Goddamn Odin ult. Get him. Well, that sucks. Yeah, we should probably fight S5. I think S5 will kill anything in front of us, but I also don't know how everyone died, so.
Your middle tower has been destroyed.
At least it's better than Vagana Destroyer. That's true. I don't know, is it? I feel like they're kind of in the same vein, but maybe that's just me. Alright, good job.
Defend the fire giant. To the vanguard.
Yeah, I think I would have had Susano if it wasn't for the Odin ult. I would have died, but at least I would have had something. It's better than nothing. Can we reach stuff?
This seems a bit menial. Thinking you're gonna just pass away like that?
was trying to grab him behind us, but we haven't gotten a single kill either. I'm not sure why Freya was so out of position. That's a bit unfortunate. It's a free fire for them, but at least it's not EFG. I ended up forcing myself to ult there because I saw Freya was taking a lot of damage. Freya should never be the first one to be going in. Nah, this would definitely be a premature surrender here. We'll have a really good defense.
Bye. Goodbye.
That'll come in handy.
Gotta get some vision up.
Keep an eye out, eh?
Full fury. Be careful.
The enemy team has destroyed the goal.
Please don't. We lost our front line.
Disaster has befallen us.
Well, that is not good. This is a certified bad moment. That's true. I actually forgot about Fatalis. You are correct, Mr. Lobster. I don't think I'll have the chance to do that. We got some poke off. Oh.
Two meatballs is better than one. Your left Phoenix has been destroyed. Your right Phoenix is under attack. Okay, so maybe
Yeah, that weird gold for defense where Nike died, just no, that was just bad. We need Nike as our only front line so badly. It's unfortunate. I think we're through this game. It's over. We're definitely through this game after being in control. It was the weird fight in like on fire. I do not know. Like Freya played super well this game. I don't want to take that away from Freya at all. But I don't know why Freya was that far in and died as the very first one in the team fight, because we need Freya. But realistically, we need everyone with our team comp. We're a full-on like damaged team comp. If we can't kill stuff before they kill us, we're just screwed. Oh well. I had fun this game though. I really screwed up in the beginning though. That's the bad thing that I did this game. I should not have died to Odin at level 3. That was just stupid and bad. Or level 2 or whatever it was. I made a mistake. Funny enough, I think we would have won if it wasn't specifically for Odin rings. The Odin rings came in so clutch every time I was in a team fight. It either saved someone, or it stopped me from, or I mean, just straight up killed me, I guess. The Odin ring was huge for them. We don't have anyone who can get out outside of our tank. Very ideal situation for them. But you are right. Let me actually note down real quick. If I do Apollo solo again, I actually almost made this build anyway, but my problem with going Hasten Fatale second is that you barely have any damage. Especially coming out of solo. I feel the big thing as an ADC in solo is that you have to be able to box the warrior you're against. And with Fatalis, it's going to be so much harder to do. Not that you should like to lose the trade, because you're so fast, you should be able to get away. It's more like you just don't have any damage. You just won't be able to do any damage. But if you go straight into a dominance, maybe that could work. Also, no shifters. You could do shifters, but I think if I go solo, it's probably going to be this build. Yeah, depending on the matchup, you won't be able to hit you. Yeah. No, you're absolutely right. It does depend on the matchup quite a bit. No. Not too good of a start in terms of win-loss today. I gotta win now, guys. What the fuck do I play to win? Huh? What does a man need to do? Is it Vamana time? Do we just go for baby? Do we do something else? Artemis? Yes, this sure wins solo Artemis. Absolutely. I mean, funny enough, it is probably not that bad in the beginning. It will be. There will be a transition period, like where she's pretty good and like up until level 8 or so, and then she's gonna become real rough to deal with if it's against the warrior at least. If it's against the mage, honestly, it's great. She should win that, but she'll just get run down once the warrior finishes their first like 1 or 2 items. Then after that, it should be okay. Poseidon. I haven't played Poseidon in a while. I don't think that's a good idea for me. I don't think that's a sure win. I'll first pick Vamana. It's time. We do it. We do the thing. Oh my. And then someone left. Maybe this just isn't the day. Maybe this is just not the day to do anything. Okay. All right. I need to look at my Vamana build again, though. Maybe I don't. Maybe this is still fine. Maybe it's not fine. What is the passive on Berserkers precisely again? It's just the attack speed. There's no power. There's just a lack of power in this build that I've made. Attack speed won't do everything. I can't rely on only having power in my own. I do get power from Bluestone, I suppose, if I decide to go for Bluestone. Not a whole lot, but a little bit. Yeah, the reason why all these items down here still exist is because they're like placeholders or like filling. Because I could still just do this or this. But still, I won't be that tanky if I do that. And that's because of Bluestone. If I do Bluestone, I'm kind of required to go for a bit more tankiness. Unless I just want to go full ham and try. Yeah, chins does make power. Like, well, I guess it does make it irrelevant, but I mean, you're right. You get a lot of power out of just having chins and a lot of attack speed. And chins is probably the ideal way to make this build good going into late game. That being said, I don't know. Stone cutting is a bit weird. It used to have 50 power, right? It just feels like a bad version of its former self. It just doesn't seem that good anymore. I don't think stone cutting is worth it. Yeah, I'm not sure. Hmm. Yeah, chance is probably the best option. Yeah, bluestone duality. Duality is definitely an interesting item. At some point, I feel like people are gonna figure out a really, really good build with duality in it, and it's just gonna clap, and I won't like it. This build will also drastically change depending on whether I start bluestone or not. Because if I start with X, late game will be much better, and it's going to be way more auto focused. Because Axe of Animosity of Amana is so good, it's incredibly good. But bluestone is purely to try and win out the laning phase and dominate the laning phase. So it just really depends. It depends on the matchup. I gotta fix this gold border too. I can't have a mana with a gold border. And thank God I'm not first pick for once. I've been first pick most of my games today. Becomes hard to counter pick if you're first pick. Kind of an automatic disadvantage.
Pick your god.
I also might not play Vamana this game though. Maybe they first pick Odin and I will probably not pick Vamana. Even though that matchup isn't that bad, to be fair. Not anymore. But still, having to always save my ult for his ult still kind of sucks. He kind of controls when I am allowed to ult. Raijin. Man, I've had so much fun with Raijin solo. Please don't be Jack on that X-Gel. I would hate that. It's gonna be a nightmare otherwise. But it might be. I mean, that could also be a solo X-Gel, which happens quite often these days.
Select your god.
I said I was gonna do it. I'm just gonna do it. We'll do the baby. Yeah, what could go wrong? Everything. It's been such a long time since I've seen Lance. In EU specifically. I believe NA still bans Lance quite a lot, or like picks him early. EU just doesn't give a fuck about him. Which I think is weird, because I think he's super powerful. But I don't jungle. And I don't think he's that good in solo, even though he is fine. Hercules. Well, we got a boring matchup on our hands. By boring, I mean really hard matchup for Vamano. Hercules is pretty damn good in Super Mono. It is not the worst though. There's many, many worse things that could have met us Vamano. I think we'll be good. How would you? Their team is incredibly stacked. This is bullshit, alright? This is absolutely bullshit. Was their final pick? It was Hercules. How? How are they so stacked? I'm doing warriors in this game, that's for sure. I'm gonna try something different this time. Maybe I'll actually try and go for Phoenix Shield. I'll see how the laning phase goes, but I might change things up. No, never mind. Forget what I said. I need shifters going into mid and late game team fighting. Otherwise, I'm just gonna lag on protection. Cancel everything I said. Yeah, I imagine I'm against Hercules, but considering that Dutch is usually a mid, it could still be like Tush is a solo main, but he also plays jungle, so it could be it could go either way. I could be against Lance. I could also be against Herc. I'm expecting it to be Herc, but if it's Lance, it won't change much. I don't really think either of us wins the matchup heavily, except for I think Hercules. Hercules definitely wins the matchup for the most part against Vamano, but it's not like he wins heavily. We'll reach a point where we're just kind of stalemate. Whatever. Like, don't even listen to what the fuck I'm saying. How about none of the above? Xingqian's 1 is gonna make it hard to box him in the early game.
Get out of my kitchen! Wow! Choking on the meat. Enemies in left lane! Out of my way! Coming through! Left lane!
Okay.
An enemy has been slain. Left lane! Mamma mia, not again! My way! You think that you're gonna just...
All these damn creeps. Unfortunate timing of the gank, really.
Umbrellas don't cover everything. Cover me while I'm gone.
I got a small creep.
Yes.
The thing almost killed it.
Maybe a little salt did hurt someone.
I am out of mana. And it sucks.
On my way. Ultimate is ready.
Enemy ultimate's down. An enemy has been slain.
Was quite extraordinary.
Cancel that. Your red tower is under attack. Letting off steam. Coming through.
I don't know if I'm getting ganked or whatever, but I'm back in.
Let's see if this fits me.
Completed. Attack. Okay.
Hey, Kubang. Preferably keep it in English just so everyone can participate. And yes, there is a like you can play a tank in jungle, but and vice versa. Like solo and jungle are kind of up against each other. You usually don't play. How can I put this? You can play a tank in the jungle, but you cannot play a assassin in solo that easily. In the current meta, you can play a bunch of different things, but assassins don't work very well. Not in the higher leagues, but if you're new, play whatever you want. Like anything probably works in the lower ranks. I feel like taking advice for like top players won't help you much. Just play what you think is fun. Like people won't play it and you know counter you as easily in the lower elos. So people don't know how to deal with different stuff. They just play with whatever they want to. Nobody really knows the metas. Nobody's building all the best items. I think you'll be alright. I think just have fun with it. It's the most important thing. Yeah, no worries about it. I just prefer having everything in English so that everyone can participate.
An enemy has been slain. Gank.
Follow me.
Ally has been slain.
Okay.
You must have choked on the meatball. Spies are merged. Just luck. An enemy has been slain.
That is an ultimate.
Than one. Let it compliment.
Man, I kind of feel like I need to stay for this.
The fresh meat has been tenderized.
My team's doing really well. I'm just over here doing the solo thing. Chilling in solo island. Doing what I can for my team. Getting the totem, killing the buffs. You know, solo is kind of like slave labor. Guys. Are you proud of me? I'm doing the thing for you over here. I'm getting the thing, so you get the thing back. And if you don't get the thing, your team is gonna be like, why aren't you getting the thing? And then ping on the map, being annoyed. I'm seeing a pattern. Maybe it was always there. I just didn't notice. If he's clearing behind, I'm just gonna go clear it then.
Be careful, middle.
Mamma mia, not again! Ally has been slain. Hit him with that secret sauce! An enemy has
No! My kill! I worked for it.
A little warning would be nice.
Attack fire giant. defend the Gold Fury.
That mid rotation just completely destroyed my mana, so I gotta go home.
Umbrellas don't cover everything.
I'm grabbing Blink.
Wow! He must have choked on the meatball.
Attack.
Your right tower is under attack. Mamma mia, not again!
Well, damn.
Limiters disabled.
From the heavens! Compliments to the chef. Your right tower is under attack.
Not sure why Gep went in there. That was very strange. Everyone suddenly just visited solo, and everyone died. So I don't know what that was about.
Chase the enemy.
I don't have my ult to really stick around here. I mean, I do in a bit, but
Tired. Let's see if this fits me.
I'll just go back and finish my stuff anyway.
Okay, okay.
Your left tower is under attack. Enemy missing middle. An enemy has been
Enemy
slain.
missing right.
Cancel that.
Middle lane.
An ally has been slain.
Got this. Pick on someone your own
Choke on the
size.
meatball.
Cover
Follow
me
me.
while I'm gone.
Enemy missing right.
Mamma mia, not again! An enemy has been slain.
My deepest apologies.
Compliments to the chef.
I don't know where Xing Chen went. He just kind of left his tower and the whole wave. Oops.
Your middle tower is under attack.
Careful middle.
That's on me. Chronos being speedy. Damn. By a giant knockup. Unfortunate. I'm slowly but surely reaching the point where I am getting a pretty big power spike, which is at 20.
Any more where that came from? That's too bad.
Cataclysm protocol activated.
Well, I surely did not do any damage to the tanks, so and that is exactly why I need 20, so I can finish Axe. Hey, Winari. Nice one. Yeah, it's a new microphone, Winari. It's just a new headset overall. But apparently it's shit. So that's always great. Geb gets pulled into towers too often. He needs to stop doing that. Like he's just dead. I'm just gonna go back to my lane where I didn't die at all for the first, what, 17 minutes of this game, and now I just died twice. My lane is way more safe.
Okay, so maybe a little something at someone.
Retreat middle lane.
Your middle tower is under attack. An enemy has been slain. Your middle tower has been destroyed.
Get him! Of course he did. Of course he did. Don't die again, Geb. Please don't die again. No more. I'm just gonna. Just need 20. I can't do any damage to any of them because I don't have what I need
A little
for this
warning.
build going into late game. Geb is just dead again, dude. Stop. He literally just rolled past me and back into them. Chill, dude.
Umbrellas don't cover everything.
Okay. First item complete. Now I have some damage.
Attack middle lane. Attack middle lane.
Unfortunate. I am not much without my ult.
I'll take that.
Enemy ultimate. Thou shalt fear me right. Be careful.
Your right tower is under attack.
Also, me having the only 2 words in right jungle for the past, I don't know, 5 minutes is not good.
Enemy spotted.
Wall attack.
Cover me while I'm gone.
Attack the gold fury. I'll defend the fire giant.
Enemy spotted.
Enemies in right lane.
It's funny, I just see the horse.
Defend the fire giant.
At the fire giant.
Alright.
Attack fire giant. Be right back.
Place a ward. I'm on my way.
Prepare.
Attack the gold fury.
Ultimate is down.
With my ult, I'll be able to do a bit more. I mean, pretty much. Ramana's kind of an ult bot, to be honest. Without my ult, I'm not really going to be that useful in teamfight. Even if it's just a means for zoning. Also, posture checks are appreciated. Because goddamn, I've been sitting bad today. I'm sorry, back. I didn't realize. Damn, that was kind of clean.
Set up an ambush here.
That's too bad.
Yeah, it has been a pretty close game for the most part. Until the last two team fights, where we just kind of ended up dominating somehow.
Attack left lane.
Well, not somehow. They went for fire, and the Chernobog was tanking it for the most part. So when we got to that fight, I just kind of picked him up for free. And then as a result, we won that team fight, because the two carries didn't really get any peeling there. So that does happen.
An enemy has been slain.
What a small structure.
Didn't even get to ult in this team fight. Everyone was dead before I fucking got there. But I mean, I can't even take much credit for this game, to be honest. Like, I was useful in one of the team fights, and that's about all I did this in this game. Not really much else to really do though. Good job, team. I mean, they pretty much did most of the job here. Who would have thunk Vamana was the way to go, even though it definitely wasn't on me. Vamana was useful though. At least there was enough slap fighting in solo to make this game fun, because otherwise it probably would have been pretty boring for me. Yeah, see what could go wrong. You're right. You're absolutely right. It is Friday, so I'll do another game. But I think normally I would have ended it here before we go past midnight. The scary past midnight trolls and hackers and lobby crashers. They all show up after midnight. It's a curse for me. Every time. Just what I wanted. I play Maui all the time. Yeah, streaming till sunrise. I'm not doing that again. I did that once, and that is the stream where I decided never to do it past midnight anymore. I was playing with a friend. We thought, it's been a lot of fun playing. Let's just keep playing. I have to fix my sleep schedule. It makes sense. Let's just keep playing and fix my sleep schedule that way. We stayed up until 7 a.m. It was not a good stream. It was a horrible, half trolly, half like hackers, pretty much every single game. It was an absolute nightmare, which is why I dubbed it on the VOD channel the Nightmare Stream. It was a nightmare. It was bad. All right. At least I grabbed the win. Was that the first win today? I think it was. There is also just a game that has been deleted today. Yeah, it was the first win today. The first game I did was a hurt game. I went 7-5, 11 or something, but it was a lobby crashing game, so. And I would have lost that game too. Even though I did alright in that game, we lost a big team fight at the end, and as a result, would have lost. There is something I've been meaning to want to try out, but I don't know if I want to do it as my last game of the day. It's Shang Kui, pretty much. Like, it's no secret. I don't want to do Shang, but Shang is just kind of awkward at the moment. You can definitely make him work. But Shang is very much a... He's a very big hit and miss mage. Because his whole thing is going in and just going all out. But doing that generally results in either dying or killing everything. So it does a lot of healing too. He does, and that's why he's a pretty good solo too. You have a lot of just built-in sustain. I mean, you can argue that's why he's also bad in solo. Because if you start with an anti-healing item first against Shang, he doesn't heal that much anymore. That being said, if you get to finish a full item on Shang, you should generally be alright against most solos. Finally, Jag is on my team. Awesome. Also, I still have... don't know what's happening. Why is there always grease on my glasses? Like, do my eyes just squirt? What the fuck is happening? Where are you coming from? Every game. Go away. By fire, be purged. I don't even see it. What's happening? Thanks, my eyelashes touching them. I mean, if it was, I think I could feel that. I think honestly, what it really is just it's hot. Like I'm low key sweating. So I think it's just like fog, I guess, or heat. I'm ADC. I guess I'm not playing anything I wanted in this one. Hey MDI, what's up, man? What's the best Sun Wukong build right now? I don't know after the patch, but I would still recommend pretty much a full damage build. Just build in a shifters somewhere. Like I would probably build Bluestone into Soul Leader into shifters, and then just go for like the usual Jotuns, Heartseeker, something like that. That's probably what I would do. But I don't know. I haven't played him since the new patch. If I have, I don't remember. Want to see a Chernobog? I haven't played Cherno in a long time. I don't think I'll be playing Chernobog, to be honest. What mage have I played that I can play at the moment? I need to figure that out first. I don't play many mages right now, or ADCs. Obviously played Apollo, but I don't know. I prefer having Apollo being solo. Sol. Speaking of Sol, huh? Sol. I mean, she's gonna be mid, so... I mean, it could be Medusa mid and Sol ADC. I don't know. I don't know. I'll do on her. Kukulkan? You know what, Wanari? You can fuck right off, alright? I don't want to play Kukulkan ADC. You can play Kukulkan ADC, alright? You can go play Kukulkan ADC. You want to lose? You want to lose? You just go to that. Go to that. You're probably gonna do it though. You're probably just gonna pick Yemoja mid or some shit. Don't do that. Yeah, Sylvan's on her is a very high pressure lane. That being said, Medusa, if it is Medusa, and Bacchus is also very scary. They actually have more pressure than we do. Yeah, but Mage Saul is the one thing you know. Yeah. I play so many other mages though. Why him? Why always the snake? We have a very strong comp. Very, very good team fighting comp. But a comp that can also very easily be disrupted by a Serket and a Bacchus. Yeah, Bacchus can be very scary. I'm more scared of the burp than the flop. Because the problem with a burp is that it forces you to react to it. And if you don't react to it, you also get jumped. That's why he's scary. He's got a really good setup that kind of forces you to react to it. That's really annoying. It makes him control the flow of the engagement, and I don't like it.
Warriors, to battle!
I need Asi, right? Yeah.
Fabulous choice. Yes, sir, you are fabulous. Thanks, you rock. Thank you. Ha ha ha! Have fun.
My team's having fun in the beginning. What is this? Am I playing the right game? My team likes playing the game? Damn. This patch truly changed. Everything's changed. People love the game now. Blood is spectacular. Yeah, I mean the thing with the Bacchus jump is that you can still react to it because it has a pretty big sound effect. You hear the big like. I don't know if the microphone picks that up, but the and you can react to that. I can't do that as on her though because my jump is slow as shit. But... Oh no, it paused. Yeah, just the pop sound for the flop.
Watch and learn.
Two meatballs is better than one.
Hmm. Yeah, we took a bad fight. We should have focused on the creeps. We should win the clear just because we have Sylvanas. After she beats, we should have gotten out. Jesus, auto attacks. Auto attacks do damage. Yeah, we just gotta chill now. Because they still got buffs as well. It's such a weird meta where Acne is a support. Support Acne.
Enemy missing.
Enemies up in dark.
Amazing. Wow, did I need that?
On my way. Ultimate is ready.
Almost thought I got the wrong buff for a second.
Enemy missing right. Attack your middle tower is under attack. Right. Enemy spotted. Enemy spotted.
On my way.
Just getting hit by everything here.
Enemies incoming left. Careful, right. Help, right lane. On my way.
Is under attack.
Ultimate is ready. Gank.
Ultimate is down.
An enemy has been slain.
Nice go. What do you say to that?
I'm happy that she's CC immuned, because I impaled kind of on accident. So that could have been kind of bad if she had just pushed her out.
Fear me now.
But I'm glad I was good bait. My ears are getting used to my new headset. They hurt a bit.
He must have choken on the meat.
I can feel it. But yeah. I don't think, like, this matchup isn't that bad for me. What I need to be very careful of, though, is losing the boxing matchup that we might end up having. Because on her is just, like, he's kind of a 1v1 god. He's incredibly good at it. So if I play it correctly, I don't think I should be losing this matchup.
I'm returning middle lane.
Your middle tower is under attack.
Be careful left. Enemy spotted. Careful left.
Our mistake.
Ow, dude. So all 3 bombs.
An enemy has been slain.
Your middle tower.
I will not beware the shifting sands. Compliment to the chef.
I did almost screw that one up. I could have played that way better.
No problem. Enemy ultimate down.
You're not again.
Okay, your left tower.
I also forgot they have Bacchus. Bacchus is mid. Or what? Bacchus is jungle? Bacchus is solo. Bacchus is solo. Interesting. Bacchus solo definitely isn't bad, but it is a god where you have to give up the early game. Because it doesn't have good enough clear, depending on what you meet. I guess someone like Bologna, it's okay. Bologna will absolutely outclear the shit out of you, but Bacchus should never die to Bologna. It's really not that horrible of a matchup, all things considered.
Enemy ultimate down.
Enemy missing.
Well, Bacchus should never win the matchup either, though. He shouldn't lose it that heavily against Bologna. Like, she should be able to clear whatever she wants, because Bacchus simply won't have the cooldowns to keep up with that.
Ward here. On my way. Your right tower.
Beware the shifting sands.
And learn.
Compliments to the chef.
And someone had a better comeback.
There we go.
Ultimate is ready. Attack.
He must have choken on the meatball.
If I ever land my Impel on Saul, she should be dead. That's right there. The base damage on it at the moment is also very high.
Who is the king of the mighty jungle now?
Enemy ultimate down.
Beware the shifting sands. Kneel before me.
Help.
Beware the shifting sands.
Set up an ambush here.
Wow, did I need that?
Okay. I dare you to sneak up on me. I'll attack.
No problem.
Ow.
Ultimate is ready.
I don't want to fight again. I want to back.
You think that you can just pass away like that?
That's too bad.
Mwah! Compliments to the chef.
Bloody spectacular.
Nice job. You are fabulous.
Yeah, low mana, and I could finish some pretty big stuff. Able to finish Hasten Fatalis is a very, very big power spike as an ADC right now. Especially if your opponent doesn't have it.
Beware the shifting sands. Okay, stop. Maybe a little soft here. My fury slave. Slain an enemy. Rah!
Attack the gold fjord. Ultimate is ready.
Good luck.
On my way.
On my way.
So if I can land Impale, as I said before, it does so much damage that it's such a big like advantage on top of it being a stun as well. It is very nice. I don't actually need to back. We Gucci.
Beware the shifting sands.
Now I'm going home.
An enemy has been slain.
More fury for my spear.
Wow! He must have choked on the meatball. Double kill.
Yeah, Sol's having a tough time. I also have very, very, very nice and very conveniently timed ganks from my team. Feels very nice. And Circuit definitely went a bit deep for me there. Slightly too deep for what I would recommend.
The hunter.
She almost did get me though.
Ultimate is down.
So A for effort almost got me.
Follow me.
That's too bad. Enemy missing.
That's too bad. My fury.
Right tower.
I bring the wrath of the desert. I am the greatest.
That was almost really bad. He used shell too though.
Beware the shifting sand.
Percy and Joe. An enemy has been slain.
That person was just
Precious meat has been tenderized.
At this point, Sol can't fight me at all. It doesn't matter what she does. I have to screw up heavily for me to lose the engagement.
Your team has destroyed a middle enemy tower.
Could you? Okay. I was about to say, Mannequin, you gotta do your job here.
Attack the gold fury.
On my way. Ultimate is ready.
Might be able to hammer this out real quick. Okay.
Beware the shifting sand. Beware the shifting
Oops.
sand.
Set up an ambush here.
Enemy spotted.
Ultimate is ready.
Beware the shifting sand.
This is your special.
By my way.
Wow! Choke on the meatball. An ally has been slain.
I'll keep pushing this. Should be able to get a tier 2.
Double kill. Okay.
Did I get an assist for that?
Been slain.
Hell? What hell?
Time for the main course.
Did I? I think I might have.
Beware the shifting sands.
Enemy spotted. Enemies in middle lane.
person was just ratchet.
No problem.
Poor Sol. I mean, what are you gonna do? That poor Sol. I should have waited. What are we getting? What do you actually build with this build? I just realized I don't have no fucking idea what you built with this build. I should have waited though, because I need to finish Mannequin. Acne is their support, so he's gonna be behind naturally. I know how it sounds, but Acne is the support. I just want to say, my one death was getting first. I got first blooded in this game.
I'll attack left lane.
Enemy spotted.
I got clapped.
Attack left lane. Chase the enemy.
I got clapped in this one.
I dare you to sneak up on me. Beware the shifting sands.
Yeah, this is just a classic case of MMR being on my side. We got a really good team. We got a very stacked team of players that I know and that actually love to communicate. Like all these players are pretty good, or you know, good, very good. Like usually this stuff doesn't happen until high masters, grandmasters, MMR, right? People grouping in a way like this, and taking advantage of the numbers. Yeah, that's true. Godlike after first blood. That's all right. Damn, I didn't get to finish Mannequin though. It goes through walls. If you mean the on her ultimate, yes. On her ultimate goes through walls. The Impale does not though. Impale does not. Why do you never change the tokens on your buffs? It's because I'm old school as shit and I forget they exist. That's why. I can't get used to them. I'm trying. If you want to, feel free to remind me of the totems on buffs, because I cannot fucking for the life of me remember them. I always forget they exist. Sometimes I hear the sound like bloop, like when I hit them accidentally, but I just forget they exist. I really do. How to hasten make it into the game again? Yeah, I don't know. I still don't think the item should exist. It just doesn't fit how Smite works, to be honest. Didn't even do top damage. Disappointed. Alright. This will be where I end it though. Thing I forget because you don't know what the colors do. You're probably right. I always forget what they do. Hasten is just a weird item. Like, I don't know. I feel like maybe its base stats needs to be lowered a little bit to make the effect. I guess buying the item, you want to buy the item for the passive, right? You want to get that massive advantage of not getting any penalty on your auto attacks. I feel like you need to have an item like that. Or if you want to have an item like that, you need to have not great base stats on it. Like you need some kind of high risk, high reward situation. But I also agree. I don't think it should be in the game. I think like I thought Hasten Ring was a good idea. Make it a 3-second thing, as you even mentioned in chat too. I think that's fine. I think that's completely fine. It's way more balanced. The funny part is Chronos too used to have Hasten just on it for the longest time, and no one gave a shit. And then suddenly he just skyrocketed as people got better, and yeah, well, it was removed. Chronos just had it. It was just a part of his kit. All right. Anyway, thank you guys so much as always. I really fucking appreciate it. I'm gonna go to bed. I'll find someone to raid as well before I leave. But I really appreciate you guys watching as always. I hope you guys have a nice night. And I might not stream tomorrow. So we'll see. But I might not stream tomorrow. Who's even streaming right now? Who can I raid? Not a whole lot of people streaming Smite at the moment, it seems. I'll give them over to Rush Wins, whoever. I don't actually know who Rush Wins is, but we'll raid someone new. Why not? Let's do that. Bye, guys.